Hello, it's April 7th, 2018. Today we ended up picking up a engine stand for our 3.8 liter V6. So what I'm going to do first is probably drain the oil out of it. It was a little difficult to get it out of the truck by myself, but it all worked out pretty good. The good Lord was looking after me. So this is the distributor out of the 3.8. And you can see that basically it lines up, but the gear to turn the unit is totally different. The overall length of the shaft is pretty decent, but I think that the oil pump is being fed somehow else, because this one here is not a hex key, right? And you feel that it just seems like it's just round. We get a better view of it there. Get some light on it and see. It doesn't look like there's a hex in there. So yeah, I'll have to modify this distributor for the 3.8 because the synchronizer I built for the PTO, the 4.2, just simply won't work in it. I mean, it's close, but well, not close enough. So we'll drop this in here. Gotta go in like that. I just gotta work a little bit. Get those gears to jump down. Baby, jump in there. And just turn the engine, it'll pump, drop right down. It doesn't need to be timed right now anyways. I'll time it later after I figure out the way to get the PTO to work. Well, I think I found out why this engine had a low oil pressure on it. There was no oil in it. Like, look at that. There's maybe a liter of oil in there, if that. So, yeah, I think we found the problem with it. I hope it isn't too badly damaged. I mean, I did run a Ford 390 out of oil and drove it for a few kilometers, and then of course got oil for it, and it did sort of function. It burnt oil after that, but it did still function until I replaced the engine. But for what I'm doing, I don't care if the rings are shot on this thing or not. As long as it turns over and it sort of functions, at least now we know it's not an oil pump issue or an oil pump or an oil pickup. The pickup screen was plugged, is what I was thinking, but yeah, we should have had 4, if not 5 times more oil in it than that. So I'm just going to plug this back up again, and let's get that disc screw in there pretty good. I'll just snug it up to about 15, maybe 20 foot-pounds, and that'll be good enough. So let's get this rig here. So good. If it turns over, that's even better, and we'll just maybe put some oil in the cylinders just to give it a little bit, just keep it lubricated. But there's a good chance this camshaft here is pretty much toast. As I showed you with those lifters, they were dished pretty good. So this is an older engine, that's for sure, a higher mileage engine too. But it doesn't matter, we're not using the camshaft, so it'll just spin free. And I think this engine's going to work out good for what we want to do. What I'll do is probably go get another filter. We'll put some oil in it and go from there. I don't see a dipstick here, so that's where the dipstick goes, right in here. I'll have to see if I can find one at the Auto Wreckers or whatever. And I've got to have a Mustang over there. I like going down to the Auto Wreckers anyway, just to see what they have. Anyways, till next time. Okay, so we're installing the heads on this 3.8 liter, and they do sort of fit, but boy is there ever a lot of differences with these two engines. Like, oh my goodness. I had to use these 4 bolts on the bottom from the 4.2 liter, and these bolts, the top bolts here, these 4 I used native from the original head. I can see that they used this engine for a base design for the 4.2 liter, but that's where it stops. I'm glad the heads fit, because oh my goodness, it took me forever to build these. So I'll get the valve cover, well, the coil covers on them, and go and work on the other side. We'll see how that's going to work out. I'm hoping it all fits in there pretty decent, but I'm glad it fits basically it's the same size. And I torqued all these bolts to about 40. I just guesstimate, and should be good enough to do a test if it even comes to that. This is mostly just for fitment and mock-up, and a place where I'm out of the rain and out of the snow and out of the cold. So hopefully this will fast track the project. Anyways, so as you can see, we're out by about a half an inch on the lineup and the alignment with these pulleys. Hello, it's April 8th, 2018. So the thing about this engine was it didn't have much oil in it at all. But just in case I get it going, I put a new filter on it. And of course I pre-lubed the filter first. And also I'm going to test out this passageway for the oil to go down into the crankcase. So I'm just going to set this up here, see if we can get a video of it as it's going down. Something like that. Let's see if it's going to work now. Yeah, it shouldn't go down into the coil system at all. It'll go right down into the oil pan.
To real life scenarios, because let's be honest, it's one thing to read about it or hear about it in church, but it's another thing to live through it.
See, another good thing about having 5 liters of oil in it, well, 4.73, is we don't have a valve train that's going to consume a lot of the oil. So even if we're short a bit on oil, we're still going to do alright. And it'll be far better than it was before, with no oil in it. So then what I'll do then is I'll put the old oil in this container, and it should be alright.
I believe Jesus is calling us as believers and followers of Him to stare right into whatever adversity or circumstance that would naturally make someone worry and say, I'm going to trade my worry with worship.
There we go. That actually worked out pretty good. I don't think any of it dripped down into the coils. Hello, it's April 8th, 2018. This is what I got done on the device here. You can see that I got our connections. This is going to give us access to every coil on every loop, and by doing that we should be able to connect it in any configuration that we need. Series, parallel series, however we want to do it. And then I connected all this stuff up here too, even though it's just redundant. The whole top end of this engine is redundant, but the thing that I really did need was this throttle body control, because the line is going to come through here on the 4.2 and connect here for the gas pedal. And what I really need from this engine is this throttle position sensor. So I might as well, continue with the design based off of this throttle position sensor, and then this is how we would control it. So if I can get everything running and rev up the engine from this point, that's even better. And the rest of it is just makes it look pretty cool. I'll mount the alternator in here and then find out a length for that belt, and then I can cut it back, like cut the ribs off of it back about, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 inches, and then I can drill a bunch of holes in it and actually sew it back together with just some thread, and just to spin an alternator, it'll be good enough for that, because there's no sense getting a custom-made belt for a system that might not even work, right? But I'll probably do that tomorrow. I mean, Charles Stanley's going to be on the TV here right away, so I want to go watch that and worry about this later. Anyways, that's it for April the 8th, 2018. Bye-bye. This is April 9th, 2018. After taking that alternator apart, it's just junk, so it's going to go scrap metal. I came over here with my bandsaw and I cut off some sections here. So how did this go in here? It goes in like that, I think. I can't remember. I think it went in like that. So I cut a ½ an inch off, or maybe 7/16, and then this should sit back far enough for the pulleys to align. And then we got like 2 alternators ready to go. Okay, so we got this alternator assembly mounted on here, and it works out pretty good. Let's take a look at that alignment there, see if I can get this so we can see how the pulleys all kind of line up. It's close enough. The main thing is now we got a decent alternator on there. It didn't cost us a darn thing, so that's pretty good. And you can see that our rotary switch is now mounted in there as well, so I didn't have to change that. It looks like it'll line up pretty darn good with where that distributor goes in. Well, we're going to turn it into a PTO. So very good. I'm going to start taking that PTO apart right now. So there it is. The tensioner seems to give pretty good pressure on it, and I spun it around and it seems to go pretty decent. This engine sure does turn over pretty easy. I just put this splice over on this side and kind of stretch in there. And that should work good enough for what we need for that. So now I'm going to build the PTO. Okay, so we got the PTO all done now. You can see here that when I cut it off, I cut off the rotor. There was a collar that was left on there, and it was steel, which worked out really good. And this shaft is steel, not like the 4.2 liter, it's an aluminum shaft, but this worked out good because then I just weld this nut onto that little bit of a collar, and then tap the collar back in place, and then just drill a hole through it, and got this bolt through there, just a little bolt, and should be good enough for what we need. I cut quite a bit of the waste. We can clear that the alternator housing, but we'll see how it fits right away, and then go from there. Actually, let's go put it in right now. Sure, we've got a lot of metal filings on this thing. Wish I had a pressure sprayer, then I could wash it out pretty good. Let's see what we got here. I don't think we have to worry too much about it though. Let's see if she'll drop in there. Pretty tight. Look at that there. Oh my goodness, that worked out pretty good. Jeepers, look at that, eh? I'm gonna sit in there like that. It just cleared right there to get past where that mount was. That's good enough. We can put the I'll do it that bolt. I had it up here. We can put that bolt in there and tie that down. Hello, it's April 10th, 2018. We pretty much got the engine as complete as we can for now. I'm gonna need to do an adjustment on the way this rotary switch sits in there, but I was just kind of looking at everything for fitment. You can see the shaft is out about maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/16, but it should still work good enough. I'll just turn the motor. You can see how it works. Get my fingers on here. You can see, and see how the rubber hose just kind of takes the flex in that. So I'll mess with that later. It'll still work good enough for what we need. Okay, so as you can see the coil packs here, this one here is 1, 2, and 3 as far as our wiring and the cable goes. Cylinder 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6. So I'll just change the timing on that, and it should work out pretty good, because I'll mark it and then we'll know for next time. But in either case, it's going to be wired very similar to this. It won't take me much to change the jumpers around, and it'll be alright. Other than that, it's really coming along, and I'm gonna go take a break, a lunch break, and then get working on the ZZ Gen. So if I can get this ZZ Gen all put together today, it would be pretty good. But well, we'll see how it goes. Anyways, till next time. Okay, so we got the 3.8 all done now, as much as we can on it. I was able to correct that alignment on the PTO, and it's pretty decent. I mean, it's close enough for what we need, so that'll be alright. And I got the cover made for the top of the rotary switch cover, but it looks like it fits in there pretty decent. And of course the belt's holding up alright, good tension on that. And I just drilled this bracket out and moved it over to get that lined up. And I also, of course, I changed the timing on it because I thought the direction that the rotary switch needed to turn was going to be, it's going to turn down the radio here for a second. So, I thought that the PTO was going to turn the other way, but it's actually counterclockwise. So I just changed the orientation of everything. So it'll work out pretty good as long as I got everything marked. And this is for the commutators. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that was from this side of it. And it went 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we go to fire them up, we will actually turn on 3 and 4 first, and then when we want to advance the timing 11.5 degrees, we move off of 4 to 2, and then when we want to move the timing another 11.5 degrees, we move it off of 3 to 1. And I'll figure out some kind of a switch for that, and then we can actually tie that switch into this here throttle body system somehow. I don't know exactly how I'll do it just yet, but there's lots of ways to tie in. There's all kinds of add-ons and stuff. I might actually take the control for the they had a cruise control system hooked up. I could probably take that, and then as this is functioned, the cruise control lever would go, and then I could use that system to tie into another switch, which would switch the rotary switch to advance the timing, and then we don't need any other mechanism, right? And then this thing should be able to do 4 grand with no problems. Well, I don't want it to go faster than 4,000 RPM, but I'll be happy for 400 right now. I also got these wired up, so this is cylinder 1, cylinder 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the cylinders are all tied through because we're going with 24 gauge on the ZZ Gen. The best thing I could do is come up with 328 gauge wires and wire them up in parallel, and that gives us 13 ohms. So we got 13 ohms. We're going to need 13 ohms of 24 gauge wire, which shouldn't be too bad. I'll just wind the cores up, but they got to be a loop. The loop needs to be 80 inches long. That's how big the loop will need to be. I got to make that loop before I start assembling it, that's for sure, because there's no way to get it in there after. So I'm glad I got the 150 on the road now. The 2003 is up and running now, so I can haul some of this stuff to the dump. I got to get rid of that coach and stuff, and I got boxes and boxes of crap. I just got to do some spring cleaning in here. But organization is key, which I'm not organized. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the 3.8 liter for today, and it's pretty much done and ready to go. Is all I need to do is wire up the timing on it, which won't take me too long, and then of course put in a signal, an RCF signal that'll power those coils. Anyways, the only other thing that I was thinking that I could do is, because we have a spare 28 gauge on here and we also have a 24 gauge wire, is I could probably rotary switch the 24 gauge to a 12 volt DC system, and then that'd be the thing that pushes the RCF off of the micro speed loop that I'm going to put in there. We might actually do that. That would work a lot better, because then we got 24 gauge and 24 gauge. So I'll measure and see what the resistance is of the 24 gauge, and then I'll match that to our ZZ Gen and go from there. But lots to do, and I better get busy on that. So anyways, that's a walk around of the 3.8 liter with 4.2 liter parts. Had to be modified and changed, and it's pretty cool, little engine now. And I'm gonna go get that cruise control system out of the truck probably right now, and then it's ready to go. Anyways, that's it for now.